أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. O you who believe, you shall obey God and you shall obey the messenger and those in charge among you. If you dispute any matter, you shall refer it to God and the messenger. If you do believe in God and the last day, if you do believe in God and the last day, this is better for you and provides you with the best solution. Have you noted those who claim that they believe in what was revealed to you and in what was revealed before you, then uphold the unjust laws of their idols? They were commanded to reject such laws. Indeed, if it is the devil's wish to lead them far astray. When they are told, "Come to what God has revealed and to the messenger," you see the hypocrites shunning you completely. How will it be when a disaster hits them as a consequence of their own works? They will come to you, then swear by God our intentions were good and righteous. God is fully aware of their innermost intentions. You shall ignore them, enlighten them, and give them good advice that they may save their souls. We did not send any messenger except to be obeyed in accordance with God's will. Had they, when they wronged their souls, come to you and prayed to God for forgiveness, and the messenger prayed for their forgiveness, they would have found God, Redeemer, most merciful. Never indeed by your Lord. They are not believers unless they come to you to judge in their disputes, and then find no hesitation in their hearts whatsoever in accepting your judgment. They must submit a total submission. Had we decreed for them, "You must offer your lives or give up your homes," they would not have done it, except for a few of them. Even if such a command was issued, had they done what they were commanded to do, it would have been better for them, and would prove the strength of their faith. And we would have granted them a great recompense, and we would have guided them in the right path. Those who obey God and the Messenger belong with those blessed by God, the prophets, the saints, the martyrs, and the righteous. These are the best company.
Praise God. Any comments or questions? Yusuf, you anything you want to share?
I'd like you to start, and if I have any extra comments, I'll let you know.
Sure. I just wanted to talk about 459. This is one of the verses that is abused quite a lot by the Sunnis and the Shias and traditional Muslims in general to convince us of the fact that you have to use the hadith, right? They try to separate God and the messenger. They try to make a distinction between God and his messengers, right? Whereas in the truth, it's just messenger and God, they're commandments, right? It's the same thing. A messenger is not allowed to utter anything but what God has told them regarding religious matters, right? And it's very simple to me, right? But just wanted to point out this verse specifically, along with many other verses, has been also abused. And by the way, in the part that it says, "And those in charge among you," they also abuse this part to say that, oh, you have to obey Bukhari because he was charged with authority, or the religious scholars. Um, this is just simply not true, okay? But for us among the submitters, I believe that we have to uphold this commandment to the best of our ability, right? Obey God and obey the messenger, and whatever the messenger says is from God. Okay, and he always uses Quranic verses to prove whatever he wants to say. So the idea of oh, if you're gonna obey the messenger, you're gonna be idol worshiper is totally bogus. It's non-existent. We're not worshiping any messenger, we're just obeying him according to what God has revealed to him. Okay, does anyone go ahead, brother dude?
Oh, no. I was just going to say, if anyone else had any comments or questions. We read from, you can see the verses in VC1-chat. We read from 459 through 469. And just a request for etiquette, if you're not talking, if you can mute so we can reduce the background noise, it would be appreciated. Anyone else have a comment about the verses we read? I think War Thunder, to your point, like it's interesting that it's packed into these verses. So in like 58, it says, "You shall obey God and the messenger," and oh, sorry, 59.
Yeah.
And again, this is the same concept that's being taken to say that, oh, this is justification for upholding of the hadith falsely attributed to the prophet.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, if I tell you that, hey, which one you have to obey your parents, like, yeah, okay, and then someone comes, years later and says, hey, by the way, your parents told me to tell you, especially think about it after you pass, to do X, Y, and Z. Are you obligated to obey that person? The answer is no. Once we verify that it's like, look, this is not a legitimate source, we have no obligation to it. Our only obligation is to upholding the Quran, which is the exact source that was the duty of the messenger to deliver.
Yeah,
Hey,
and
T,
it's
can you mute, please?
yeah. T, could you please mute? Mm, thank you. Just please mute. Just a little bit of noise. Thank you. Yes. Also interesting in 460. I feel like it's calling out to those who abuse this verse. Let's look at it. Bismillah. Have you noted those who claim that they believe in what was revealed to you and in what was revealed before you, then uphold the unjust laws of their idols? They were commanded to reject such laws. Indeed, it is the devil's wish to lead them far astray. I think it's very important, right? We talk with Muslims, they believe in the previous scripture. They think that Bible and the Torah, it was from God. And they also believe in the Quran. However, it says, then uphold the unjust laws of their idols. And who are these idols? Okay. It's just Bukhari, it's just their scholars. Whenever I talk to them, I'm like, let's look at it. Let's analyze this. This has come 200 years after Muhammad. It contradicts the Quran. So many inconsistencies. It abrogates the Quran. You uphold it even above the Quran, right? And they tell me that, oh no, there's 1,000 years of scholarly research. I believe in my scholars and all that. That's their idol. Bukhari is their idol. Muslim is their idol. Timridi is their idol, right? And I think it's just funny that God knows what they're gonna do and just calls them out on the spot right after that verse.
I want to share a couple verses, regarding that topic. The first one is 931. They have set up their religious leaders and scholars as lords instead of God. Others defied the Messiah, son of Mary. They were all commanded to worship only one God. There is no God except He. Be He glorified, high above having any partners. And one of the questions that comes up is one of the mistakes that people make. They think that this concept of idol worship is simply like bowing and prostrating and worshiping in essence, like the physical aspect of some entity. But the verse 6:121 gives us what it means to set up an idol next to God. In 6:121 it says, "Do not eat from that upon which the name of God has not been mentioned, for it is an abomination." And it says, "The devils inspired their allies to argue with you. If you obey them, you will be idol worshippers." This means that if God gives us a clear commandment in the Quran, but we choose to follow some other source that gives us a contrary commandment, and in essence, we're setting up that source as a God next to God. Like, for instance, God tells us in the Quran, Surah 5, verse 6, that the ablution is simply 4 steps. If I go add 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 steps, then I'm following some other source other than God, my religious decrees. And that's what, this is insinuating, is that if we set up any other source, then in essence, we're showing that we don't believe in God. We don't believe in the hereafter.
Yeah, I think it's very important, right? Once you start upholding any other religious source beside the Quran, beside the word of God, it is idol worship. You're worshiping someone else. You're worshiping their work instead of the work of God. Mm. Yeah, I think also 464 and 465 says, "We did not send any messenger except to be obeyed in accordance with God's will. Had they, when they wronged their souls, come to you and prayed to God for forgiveness, and the messenger prayed for their forgiveness, they would have found God Redeemer, most merciful. Never indeed by your Lord. They are not believers unless they come to you to judge in their disputes, and find no hesitation in their hearts whatsoever in accepting your judgment. They must submit a total submission. I think it's very important as a believer, as a submitter, if the messenger of God tells you something about a religious matter, according to the Quran, you have to accept it no matter what. And if you disobey, you will not be believers. I'm not saying this. You can look at the 465. It says, never indeed by your Lord, they're not believers unless they come to you to judge in their disputes. Disputes happen all the time, right? I mean, it's nothing new, right? And I look at the verse, you look at the verse, we come to different conclusion, and that's just normal, right? And the solution God has provided is to refer to a representative that He has sent us, His messenger. And we have to accept whatever He says. No hesitation. No hesitation. So the concept of us worshiping, a messenger of God just because we're obeying him is it's just not true. Not at all. And 466 even doubles down on this. It says, had we decreed for them, you must offer your lives or give up your homes, they would have not done it, except for a few of them. I think this is very important that whatever God tells you, or his messenger, his representative tells you, you have to do it. And he is giving you a hypothetical scenario that if you have to even offer your lives or give away your homes, you have to do it. It's a total submission. And that's what submission is about. It means that, I have free will, but I will always try and choose whatever God tells me to do. I will always do that. Yes, I'll make mistakes, but I can repent. But the idea is I have to totally submit myself to God, no matter what it is, no matter, regardless of my family, my wealth, my home, my life, it doesn't matter. That's what the true meaning of submission means. Submission to God alone. Total submission is what we have in here. And in return, we get a great recompense, 467. And we would have granted them a great recompense, and we would have guided them in the right path. It's very important. And 469 finally tells us those who obey God and the messenger belong with those blessed by God. The prophets, the saints, the martyrs, and the righteous. These are the best company.
Taslim said he has a comment.
Go ahead, brother Taslim.
Peace be upon the brothers and sisters. God bless you all for coming to this beautiful Quran study. Such a blessing on this beautiful day God has given us. God bless you both. So I'm reading. I'm sorry. Let me get there. Okay, I have a comment on verse. Verse 59. Oops. I'm sorry. Let's see. Oh yeah, it's verse 60. So great set of verses, of course. And then it says believers or hypocrites on the subtitle for verse 60. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. I'm going to read the verse and make my comment, inshallah. Have you noted those who claim that they believe in what was revealed to you and in what was revealed before you, that they uphold the unjust laws of their idols? They were commanded to reject such laws. Now, here's the underlying point that I want to make. Indeed, it is the devil's wish to lead them far astray. So, inshallah, for all people, they should realize, even spitters, because the devil is focused on us a lot more, that the devil is the most ardent enemy, as God says it so. Okay, when God said so, it is a fact. And he's going to create all sorts of confusion, extricate some kind of a meaning, create all sorts of idols to diverge humanity from the straight path that God has blessed us with. And out of that straight path, he's given messengers, a lot of messengers. Recently, we just had one, praise be to God, to take the believers out of darkness into the light. So God keeps out of his mercy sending messengers to simplify religion, to purify religion, to guide us in the straightest path. And God says, I made the Quran easy to learn. Does any of you wish to learn? That was my comment. God bless you.
Thank you very much, brother Taslim. One Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say if anyone else has any comments or questions about the verses we read. Again, we read from 458 through 69. So if anyone has any comments or questions, feel free to chime in.
I want to comment very quickly, God willing, on how it's interesting how history repeats itself in different versions. Because if you look at the verse which was just read, it's we're supposed to obey the messenger, and then we have people upholding unjust laws of their idols, when God never commanded such laws. So we had people in the past. It was Muhammad the messenger, and still is, of course. But we have Muhammad the messenger being disobeyed constantly. The Quran constantly reaffirms that his only mission was to deliver the Quran, not explain it. And so we have people, which in the Quran came out of his mouth, right? So we have people disobeying that and taking Bukhari and Muslim and all these other hadiths, even though the Prophet literally said out of his mouth, reciting the Quran, which other hadith than this will you uphold? So we have people disobeying the messenger and upholding laws of unjust laws of their idols. Coming to this day, we got another messenger, and we have his qawl, his speech. We're still not supposed to follow his hadith, which means we need to verify it that he said it himself, not from a second mouth, third mouth, but from himself. And then we still have people disobeying the messenger and then upholding other people's opinions. So the history is repeating itself. And these other people's opinions, they uphold unjust laws and they become idols because they're being followed instead of the messenger that God sent. So it's interesting how it just repeats. Or like, for example, Jesus, he said, my Father is the only true God. In John 17:3, he said, my Father is the only true God, and believe in the one whom he sent. Even though there's a clear distinction, Jesus Christ, even though there's a clear distinction here between the Father, God, and the one whom he sent, Jesus, which is literally out of Jesus' mouth, they disobey him, and they uphold the church fathers, and they claim that they were guided by the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit is still among us. So it's always the same thing. History is repeating itself. Or like Moses going away for just a few days, and we have the Sumerians stealing. It's always the same thing, but they don't see it. So if we have it in the past, it's already done. It's already established. We learned it. But coming to this day, this age, same thing is happening, and people don't see it. Yeah, that was my comment.
Is good?
Peace and blessings be upon you all.
Please
I
do.
have a question.
Go ahead. If it's
Oh,
only
yeah,
related
that's-
to the verses that we just read, otherwise, let's have that after the Quran study. Is it related to the verses that we just read, brother?
yes.
All right, go ahead.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. 463. God is fully aware of their innermost intentions. You shall ignore them, enlighten them, and give them good advice that may save their souls. So, I have two questions with reference to this verse. One, well, is God speaking to Muhammad in this verse? And two, how can you ignore someone yet still enlighten them and give them good advice that may save their souls?
Yeah, God willing, I can give a answer to that. Give me one sec. So it's not. It doesn't look like it's only to the prophet, because it's talking in general. That's the first thing. I'm just looking at the Arabic to see if I'm missing anything. And then secondly, regarding the ignore and enlighten, I think my take from that is don't let it impact you. Don't let it affect you. Not in the sense that you shun them, but in the sense where it's like if someone says the way I think about it, imagine you had a child, okay? You're trying to communicate something to a child, and the child lashes out. You just kind of ignore that lashing out, and you address the child. I see it in the same way where, someone's going to come, they're going to be lashing out, they're going to be saying nonsense, and you ignore that piece and you address the root of what it is that needs to be addressed.
Okay, thanks.
I had one last comment I wanted to make regarding 469. I put it again. Says, those who obey God and the messenger belong with those blessed by God, the prophets, the saints, the martyrs, and the righteous. These are the best company. I was always told that we can never reach the high level of the prophets, right, or the martyrs, like we normal people. And that kind of always bothered me. I was like, I'll try to do my best. Why can't I get to the top? And their understanding was that, oh no, these people are just blessed. You're not nearly as blessed as them. There's no way you can get there. But that's just not true. Anyone who's a righteous person, believes in God, believes in his messengers, and obey God and his messengers, you can be in the same place as the prophets, the saints, the martyrs, and the righteous. You can achieve the highest level if you obey God and the messenger, God willing. So I think that's very heartwarming, at least for me, that I can imagine myself being at one of the highest levels of heavens with all these righteous people being close to God.
So Taslim,
I want
go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead, Jeff.
okay on that 462. Uh, Here's what the hypocrites are saying. They're saying our intentions were good and righteous. In other words, they're saying I'm a victim here. Wait, I didn't do anything. I'm a victim. And so this is a good point to talk about whether are we ever victims? So if we're a victim of Satan, but nothing happens except as a consequence of things we've done. So does even victimhood happen? Are we ever victims? Uh, because if it may be something that is intended for you so that you'll gain a lot of credit. It may be so there's the less blessings in disguise, could be a admission test, but the notion that we're victims is I would question that. Also, I'd say that our intentions, people say that, well, my intentions were good and righteous, that was what the hypocrites were saying. And the thing is we don't have access to that. We don't know our deepest intention because it says in 463, God is fully aware of their innermost intentions. And so, it's literally just lip service, really, what they think their intentions are. Dr. Khalifa was saying how that the hypocrites, they don't know they're not believers. They just don't know that. So
I wanted to comment about this. This reminded me of another verse, 2:11. So in 2:11 it says, "When they're told, do not commit evil, they say, but we are righteous." And this is one thing that's interesting for studying the Arabic is there's multiple words in Arabic for righteous, and these two words that are used in 462 and 2:11, they actually come from it's two separate words, but they have how do you put it, complementary meanings. Where these are individuals, and you can interpret it one of two ways. Either they say, "Hey, we're reconcilers," right? So in essence, we're trying to reconcile people. Or the funny thing is, like muslihun, it's used in 2:11. The another way of understanding is that we're reformers. And I actually take it from that perspective when they say we are righteous, that what they're saying is that they're reformers. Because if we read the remainder of Surah 2, when it's told to them to believe like the people who believe, they say, "Shall we believe like the fools who believed?" In fact, it is they who are fools, but they do not perceive. Deaf, dumb, and blind, they fail to uh, comprehend, if I'm not mistaken. But my takeaway from that, and it's interesting, you see this with a lot of these new movements, is that their justification for their understanding is that, look, the people in the past were dumb. We have the right understanding now, and we're reforming God's religion. And this is actually a trait of what someone who has a hypocrisy in their heart does, is because rather than accepting God's message as it is, what they want to do is alter God's message in order, in essence, to reform it. as if it was like not done correctly or like not correct before, and then now this new generation understands that say Salat is not a ritual prayer, that it's not Allahu Akbar, it's Allah al Kabir, all these kind of like new innovations. So that's something that it's funny that in both these verses it uses different words for a reformation and reconciliation.
All right. Does anyone else have any comments about regarding the verses that we just read? Mm.
Taslim had a question.
All right.
He wanted to know the subtitle. It says God's tests are never unreasonable. If anyone had any thoughts on that, if anyone on the study wants to chime in to give their thoughts as far as what they think for
Yeah, I
66.
think yeah. I think it like one of the great examples we have is Abraham and his son. That devil basically made him to believe that God wanted him to sacrifice his son. But the reality is God never advocates for sin, right? So God tests are never going to be unreasonable. I've heard this many times. People say, what if God tells you to jump? What if God tells you to commit genocide? Right? He would never tell you to do that. That's the thing. God tests are never unreasonable. So you might have some difficulties in life and etc., but God's not never gonna tell you to steal stuff, to murder people, to commit horrible acts, because God does not advocate sin, and His tests are not unreasonable. That's it. Very simple, in my opinion. Does anyone else have any comment regarding this?
Yeah, I'll chime in. So 2285, this always comes to mind when it talks about God says not being unreasonable. It says the messengers believed in what was sent down to him from his Lord, and so did the believers. They believe in God, his angels, his scripture, his messenger. We make is it the next one? 2286. Yeah, so 2286, my mistake. God never burdens a soul beyond its means. To its credit is what it earns. Against it is what it commits. Our Lord, do not condemn us if we forget or make mistakes. Our Lord, and protect us from blaspheming against you like those before us have done. Our Lord, protect us from sinning until it becomes too late for us to repent. Pardon us and forgive us, your Lord and Master. Grant us victory over the disbelieving people. My take for when it says God says are never unreasonable is God knows exactly how much we can bear. The question is for us, God is not going to impose more on us that's going to cause us to transgress, but he wants us to see our limit. Because it's only until we see our limit do we see how we can improve. For instance, God says that if he gave the individuals more provisions than they can handle, they would transgress on earth. Meaning that the amount of provisions we even have in our life is commensurate with how much our soul can handle those provisions. That if God gave us more than we can handle, we would transgress. The test started in the same regard. God won't necessarily test the average person with the dream that Abraham had, right? This is something that it showed that Abraham's faith was so strong that despite Satan trying to get him to renounce God, he wasn't going to do it, even if it meant that he had to sacrifice his own son. And God doesn't test someone who can't handle that. But, it's a way for us to be promoted, you can think. God puts you in a situation, right? You pass by a homeless person. How you respond, how you react, what you do, right? Even if you take notice, is all commensurate with the degree of growth of one's soul. Someone might pass that person, not even notice that they're there. That shows they didn't deserve the credit. Someone else might pass by them and then see them, send a blessing of some sort, pray for them. That's good. Someone else might come by and say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to give them a few bucks. Someone might stop and say, hey, what is it that you need? Someone might go and say, hey, I know a place that I can take you to, in essence, try to get you back on your feet. Someone else might go and check in on him on a weekly or daily basis to see how they're doing, right? Each one of these is commensurate with what the amount of credit that individual deserves. And to me, it's like we go through this every day of our life. How much time we want to spend striving, how hard we want to strive. These are all opportunities for us to grow in development. Jeff, did you want to make a comment?
I'm so sorry. I did. I was just getting ready. I'm so sorry. Yes, I
No,
do
don't
though.
be sorry. Yeah, it's great to
Oh,
hear other people
okay.
talk.
Oh no, I was actually I was just saying Rabbi A'udhu Bika min Hamdat Yash 18 before I started to say the verse. I was going to make a comment, but thank you. So yeah, that's a very good point. By the way, I the various ways that we respond to God and will be rewarded accordingly. So 469, I was just going to say those who A'udhu Billahi min Shaitanir Rajim, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, those who obey God and the messenger belong with those blessed by God, the prophets, the saints, the martyrs, and the righteous. So this is extremely profound because we used to think that, well, the ones who are the closest are the martyrs. Oh, I wish I could have lived when the martyrs were alive, so I could have died in the cause of God and I could have been one among the best. Well, good news. You can be, because all we have to do is be the righteous. And guess who you'll be with? You'll be with those blessed by God, the prophets, the saints, the martyrs. So that's all we have to do is purify our souls and obey God's commands to the level to where you can be among the prophets and the saints and the martyrs. Just be righteous.
Praise God. Does anyone else have comments or questions, or should we load up the next batch of verses?
Next batch.
Like we touched on most of the verses, so if not, yeah, we can load up the next batch. And we do from 470 through 77, and then we could probably call that a day at least for the Quran study. Load up the verses.
I'll read it if that's okay with everyone.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here you go, bro.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Such is the blessing from God. God is the best knower. O you who believe, you shall remain alert and mobilize as individuals or mobilize all together. Surely there are those among you who would drag their feet. Then, if a setback afflicts you, they would say, God has blessed me that I was not martyred with them. But if you attain a blessing from God, they would say, as if no friendship ever existed between you and them, I wish I was with them so I could share in such a great victory. Those who readily fight in the cause of God are those who forsake this world in favor of the hereafter. Whoever fights in the cause of God, then gets killed or attains victory, we will surely grant him a great recompense. Why should you not fight in the cause of God when weak men, women, and children are imploring, O Lord, deliver us from this community whose people are oppressive, and be you our Lord and Master? Those who believe are fighting for the cause of God, while those who disbelieve are fighting for the cause of tyranny. Therefore, you shall fight the devil's allies. The devil's power is nil. Have you noted those who were told, you do not have to fight, all you need to do is observe the contact prayers, salat, and give the obligatory charity zakat? Then, when the fighting was decreed for them, they feared the people as much as they feared God, or even more. They said, O Lord, why did you force this fighting on us? If only you respite us for a while. Say, the materials of this world are nil, while the hereafter is far better for the righteous, and you never suffer the slightest injustice.
Praise God. Nathaniel, do you got any comments or questions about the verses you just read?
Well, just where I stopped reading when it says, Quran says, you never suffer the slightest injustice. That's interesting.
What's your take on that?
Well, firstly, it's sort of like the first thought that comes to my head is really like have I in my life, because I'm 20 years old at the moment, have I really never been through injustice? And the immediate thought that comes to my head is I probably have been through some sort of injustice. But the Quran, which is God word, is telling me that I actually haven't, and I don't know, I really have to reflect on that.
I think this is something that a lot of people struggle with when it says that there is, you never suffer the slightest injustice. And the best way I can kind of wrap my head around it is when it comes to cross sections in life. If we say, for instance, hey, we're going to stop everything now and weigh if there's injustice, in for an individual, the world in aggregate, the answer is yes. The whole concept is if we believe in a hereafter, we believe in a day of judgment, we know definitively that no one is going to suffer any injustice. And whatever wrong we happen, it's going to be basically be paid back to us. We're going to be taken care of in regards. Injustice only happens in the cross sections of life. For instance, you take the example of Joseph. If an outside observer watched what was happening, they would say this is clear injustice. His brothers, they faked his death. They left him in a well for dead. He got sold into slavery. He got falsely accused of, seducing the governor's wife. All these atrocities happened to this poor kid. In the grand scheme of things, we realize there is no injustice. This was God's divine plan. Everything that he suffered, God paid it back to him manifold. Those people who thought they had the upper hand suffered for what they did. And God allows us to see in this one person's life, everything ends up being balanced out. And it's hard for us because, in our day to day, someone cuts us off. We say, I've been injustice. Something is not right. Someone needs to do something about this. And we have to understand that God is the one who's holding all the cards. God is the one who's determining all the outcomes. That if someone slights us today, don't worry. God's already taken care of the situation. That slight might have been good for you. There might be something that benefits you from that experience. If we're patient, we trust in God, God's going to allow us to see it. Inshallah.
إن مع العسر يسرا. Trying to find شرح Surah 94.
Yusuf, can you talk a little louder? Your voice is coming in very faint.
Yeah, إن مع العسر يسرا. Surah 94, verse 1 to 8. Can someone pull that up?
There you go.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم نشرح لك صدرك. Did we not cool your temper? ووضعنا عنك وزرك. And we unloaded your load of sins. الذي أنقض ظهرك. One that burdened your back. ورفعنا لك ذكرك. We exalted you to an honorable position. فإن مع العسر يسرا. With pain there is gain. إن مع العسر يسرا. Indeed, with pain there is gain. فإذا فرغت فانصب. Whenever it's possible you shall strive. وإلى ربك فارغب. Seeking only your Lord. So with pain there is gain. So as Brother Jude mentioned in the story of Prophet Joseph, he suffered. However, he was paid. And there's a verse talking about يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية. It's basically it's God telling the soul to go back to its Lord, راضية مرضية, fully accepted. Wait, can someone pull that verse up?
Yeah, I got it. 89:28. Sorry. That's the one you're thinking of, right?
Yeah, ارجع إلى ربك راضية مرضية. 89. Let's see, from 25 to 30. 25 to 30. ويومئذ لا يعذب عذابه أحد. On that day no retribution could be worse than his retribution. ولا يوثق وثاقه أحد. And no confinement is effective as his confinement. يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة. As for you, O content soul, ارجع إلى ربك راضية مرضية. Return to your Lord pleased and pleasing. فادخلي في عبادي. Welcome into my servants. وادخلي جنتي. Welcome to my paradise. So the soul is certainly going to be content when that final day comes. It was pleased and it pleased. راضية مرضية. Pleased and pleasing. Where the concept of Brother Dude saying that everything is going to equal out, it says it right here. Return to your Lord, pleased and pleasing. Everything is equaled out. And here we have another verse. We will remove all jealousy from their hearts. Rivers will flow beneath them, and they will say, God be praised for guiding us. We could not possibly be guided if it were not that God has guided us. The messengers of our Lord did bring the truth. They will be called, this is your paradise. You have inherited it in return for your works. I love this verse so much. ونزعنا ما في صدورهم من غل تجري من تحتهم الأنهار وقالوا الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كان لنا أن نهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. I love this verse, and so many times I sit with people around me, Muslims, or believers, or whatnot. I always thank God for this guidance, and we were not going to be guided unless God guided us. لقد جاءت رسل ربنا بالحق لود أن يتكلم جنة تثمرها بما كنتم تعملون. Okay, and then ونزغنا ما في صدورهم من غل أخوانا على سرر متقابلين. Surah 15, verse 47, we remove all jealousy from their hearts. Like one family, they will be on adjacent furnishing. Beautiful.
It's good. We
Praise
read from 459 to 77. Anyone else has any comments or questions regarding those verses? Please chime in.
I I have a quick comment, God willing. But yeah, okay, I'll go first, God willing. So in 477, ربي أعوذ بك من همزات الشياطين وأعوذ بك ربي أن يحضرون. It says, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So they're saying, "Oh Lord, why did you force this fighting on us? If only you respite us for a while, and say the materials of this world are nil, which is 0, while the hereafter is far better for the righteous, and you never suffer the slightest injustice." The thing is, I have a short story. So I had a assignment due in a very short time, but a friend of mine called me for support. You know, arguing, no, not arguing, sorry, but debating with disbelievers. So he called my support, and so I went in there, even though I had not much time for the assignment. So I spent, you know, hours there, and we did our best. And it went well, mashallah. So something interesting happened. So this is interesting. Before I went there, I was working on the assignment. It was going very slow, and I was like, it was not going well at all. Actually, I couldn't find what I was looking for. It was very, very tiresome. And after I went into the debate, I left the debate, and wow, it's like all doors opened. Like I was getting every piece of information I wanted, and the assignment went so fast, and it wasn't as tiresome as before. I could find everything I wanted, God's gift. And the assignment went well, it was on time. So I just wanted to share this, God's gift. I just wanted to share this brief reminder. If God calls us to fight, which today it's not physical, it's intellectual, it's better for you to go. If you you earn a lot of credit, the material of this world is nothing compared to what you gain for the hereafter, and also you never suffer the slightest injustice because you also get rewarded in this world. So obviously you need to have a balance. You don't need to throw yourself into the fire, not go over the top. But it's just an interesting reminder. Like when I say don't go over the top, I don't mean like the example of the charity. Don't give away every charity. You still need to get by. But it's just without going to that extreme. I think it's very important, this reminder that if God decrees for us to fight, then we have to fight, and it will be better
So
for
that,
us.
mashallah, this is a big problem in this in the community, I believe, because when fighting was decreed for them. So the first question is fighting decreed for us. Now listen, debate in the best possible manner and striving, that's always decreed. But when fighting was decreed for them, that means there's a when. And so what happens, I see all the time, is that in people's zeal, they take the behavior of fighting and they put it in the arena of debate. And to me, this is a big problem. We are not. These are You're not fighting like that, and therefore the behavior gets conflated, and people end up doing things, saying things, or taking a behavior that's actually repelling, that actually goes against your effort to strive in God's cause. This idea that the fighting is all intellectual is an abuse of what Dr. Khalifa had said in that comment. He's and I would say that the real fighting is you fighting your own wild horse inside, because it's literally you are striving against them, you're debating in the best possible manner. But when for example, if somebody calls me a jerk, now should I give an equal response and call them a jerk? Listen, I've been in communities who would do that, and they would justify keep spiraling down, going lower and lower, because they're given an equal and response. So I'm just I would like to bring this up. I'm sure I can't persuade many people of this, but I do believe that we're conflating fighting with debate.
Yeah, that's a very good reminder. I think that's also a very important detail to put in with my comment. When we say we are like we're not in a physical fight, it's all intellectual now. We're not talking about going in there like, oh, if the person does this, then no. We still have to uphold the other verse which says debate with them in the best possible manner. So the point is actually striving in the cause of God, and then we debate in the best possible manner. So yeah, that's a very important reminder, Jeff.
Peace be upon you all. Mashallah, some good comments were shared, and I wanted to add a couple of things. Just while I'm thinking of it, I'm have been and plan to be away from the chat. Mashallah, I appreciated the brother who shared that story about the homework assignment, and I can relate. Sometimes we all probably can, that we've got these worldly pressures, and sometimes need to choose, and how God is a beautiful example of how God can make things easy for us. There's a verse that says, those who reverence God make everything easy for them, I'm remembering right, and how God can bless and reward in this life. And we know God promises in the hereafter as well for his righteous believers. Yeah, regarding this verse, mashallah, 477, good comments were made. And I just want to add that, sometimes people just see this worldly life. They may not believe in the hereafter, or they may not have a significant awareness of it. But when we think of this, when we think about how it's the hereafter that's the real life and the eternal abode, then here whatever we can do to grow our souls and benefit our souls is really a small price to pay. The first reminders from me, may God help me and all of us with this, to really like keep our eyes on the prize and keep our priorities straight. That it's, and it may seem like things are not just here. There's oppression happening, there's war and people killing each other and creating disasters and problems. And it's because we know, thank God that we know God's system, that it's a test. God allows people to be exposed, and everything is precisely designed, including our paths and our lives, to fit like what we need, the weaknesses that we have, what we need to go through here in order to nourish and purify our souls, if we choose that, to go back to God. So it may seem like things are unjust, but there is, as we know, there's a divine plan, and everything is going to be accounted for. God's system is so precise. Um, it starts here, but even if we don't see it here or think we don't see it here, definitely it's going to be in the hereafter that we're accountable for what we do, what we say, even what we think, the thoughts that we harbor. We may not be able to control like the thoughts that come to us, but then what do we do with it? How do we respond to it? Like, Brother Jude was reflecting earlier, how to respond to a homeless person, how to respond to, other situations or thoughts that we have or whatever it is that's happening. And it's a journey. It's a journey of purification, and may God help me and us to advance and get better. Thank you.
So in 476, it says that, therefore you shall fight the devil's allies, the devil's power is nil. Now, this verse acknowledges that the devil's power is nil. But as our sister Fari just said, there are some things that in this world, like wicked and evil stuff, that maybe perhaps we can attribute it towards Satan. So my question is, the word nil here, how it's used, does it mean like nil in the present, like nil right now, or like in the final analysis, the devil's power is nil? So probably at the day of judgment, that is when the devil's power is nil. Which one is it?
Can I comment on this very quickly? So the devil's power is, for example, let's say 100, let's say 1,000 even, or let's say even 1,000,000. But God's power is infinite. Now, if you do the mathematics, if you divide anything by infinite, it becomes 0. You can look this up if you want. But so even if you divide 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000, whatever number you want, if you divide it by infinity, the equation equals 0. So that's my comment on that.
I shared a verse.
Wow.
Oh, good, Jeff.
Just wow. That never occurred. I wanted to thank him for that. MashaAllah.
Yeah, praise God. That's an awesome example. In Surah 16, verse 100, it's talking about the devil. It says, his power is limited to those who choose him as their master, those who choose him as their God. God gave the Satan certain, in essence, powers, control, and this was part of his respite. When he says, grant me a respite, he says, I'm going to send them astray. If he didn't have those capabilities, then he wouldn't be able to try to demonstrate his point. The irony is, even whatever the devil is doing is under God's control. And I'll give an example. So in when God asked all the angels to fall prostrate, and Satan said he didn't want to, his reason was, he says, "Look, I'm better than he. You created me from fire, you created him from mud." And the irony of that is what he's doing, in essence, at the end of the day, is still serving the human being. He's just serving it in a different capacity than what he originally thought. God, in essence, is telling the angels, hey, serve these humans. And the devil's saying, no, I don't want to. He says, okay, what are you going to do? It's like, I'm going to test these humans. Like, okay, so you're still serving them, right? And even if you take the parable, I think we mentioned it the previous week, the fact that he's saying, look, I'm made from fire, he's made from clay. Well, what happens when you put clay inside fire? That it burns away the
Purify.
impurities, and yeah, and it solidifies the shape of the clay. And this is what the devil does. It's like if he's used properly, if we're in the right shape, right, we basically fully develop our souls. Devil, all he's gonna do is what's the word I'm looking for? Strengthen, in essence, that form, that shape. If someone doesn't mold and take care of their soul, devil's just gonna basically, keep them in this formed state, essence. But it's just fascinating that irrespective, he submits or he doesn't submit, he's still submitting, right? Either submitting willingly or unwillingly, he's still submitting.
Peace be upon him. I want to make a comment based on the verses. I believe in the verses that we just read, we have to take the Quran in its entirety. And when God says fighting is decreed for you, it's not like, okay, like physical fighting all the time. You have to take the context, like whatever the devil's ally are imposing on submitters or those who want to believe in God, you should fight that. Either be like intellectually, like the brother mentioned, or physically. So, but you have to keep in context the whole Quran. When it says that you should fight the devil's ally, like even if it's not a physical war, we can't just divide that and take that and think that it doesn't apply to us because this is not a physical fight, right? Like it's not a war, a real war. I believe like you should fight the devil's ally nonetheless, but observe the whole Quran is in its entirety. If fighting in the cause of God doesn't mean that you only fighting physically. To me, at least, you shall fight the devil's allies in all fronts. And when fighting is decreed for you, like you should observe that command and base that on the Quran's entirety. Like if you debate with them, you debate in the best possible manner, right? But you shall fight in the cause of God. That's like what's decreed based on my understanding. That's all I wanted to say. Also
I
because
just
like
wanted to. Oh, sorry. I just was gonna add a comment. I'll let you finish. Sorry.
yeah, I'm sorry. So like what I wanted to add is that because a lot of these verses, like a lot of people believe that these only apply to certain contexts, to certain times, to certain people. But the Quran is here for the whole, until the day of judgment. So that, to me, it tells me that you should apply it. God has made that decree, and you should apply it in the whole Quran, but observe the Quran in its entirety, not like like separate, like take it out of context. You have to apply it in all entirety. But like when the fighting is decreed for you, that's what it means. Like it's not like only physical fight, like war. That's what I believe. A lot of things get taken out, like and hey, like this doesn't apply to me. This doesn't apply for this particular time. This prayer was for the messenger. Prayers were for the messenger's friends, and all of these kind of comments that are made up. Quran is for all times and for all people. So like we shall abide in my understanding all fronts and then observe the Quran in its entirety, not like take things out of context and I try to extract the meaning. Oh, this doesn't apply. You said we shall take the Quran in its all entirety.
Yeah, I agree with that. Salam alaikum.
Can I Assalamualaikum. Do you mind if I jump in? I just wanted to just add what I think on this, and basically, my understanding is that debating with people or sharing the message with people is not fighting, right? Like if I meet somebody who is not a submitter and I want to share with them what I believe as a submitter, that's not a fight between us. To you is your religion, to me is my religion. I'm sharing something with you. You can share with me what you want, and we can talk about it. That's not a fight. That's two adults having hopefully a mutually respectful conversation. There's no fight there. Even if I meet another submitter who has a different point of view about a topic than me, then God willing, I personally don't fight with anybody. There's nothing to fight about. We're all responsible for studying the Quran and applying it to our lives. And unfortunately, I think this attitude where people, and there is a lot of fighting in the submitter community and within the community as well, and that has very strong effects on our community. It hurts our community. Um, we actually could potentially be a strong, big, happy community if we just stop fighting with each other. But you know, like it's different to share what you think and talk to people in a respectful way as opposed to fighting. A fight is not a fight is I oppose you. One of us is going down. And God has said he's the one who's going to figure out who deserves what on the day of judgment. And if someone says to me I disbelieve or I disagree, they're not taking anything away from me. I don't need to have any emotion about that. I need to just worry about myself. A fight is, you know, an opposition. If someone's opposing me or trying to take away my rights to practice as a submitter or something like that, then I do need to fight back. Right? Fighting is a different it's a different beast. You don't go fighting all the time. It's a different beast. You have to know when you want to fight and you have to control your aggression. So that's just my point of view. And I've seen a lot of communities go down, fall into pieces because of fighting. And it's really sad because our souls are stronger when we're together and helping each other instead of fighting with each other.
Assalamu alaikum.
Praise
I'd like
God.
to make a comment
Praise
on
God.
this. Yeah, I wanted to make a comment on this. I agree with the sister that if we're just exchanging ideas with someone and we're having a civil discourse, that's not fighting. And especially among the submitters, there shouldn't be fighting. But I can think of a couple of examples where I think it would be fighting. For example, if there's a group of submitters aggressing against another group of submitters, I believe it's our duty to fight the aggressing group until they submit to, and this is for the purpose of peace and unity. And fighting doesn't have to always be physical. Literally, you can use words and be, go against them to stop them. This is in the Quran, chapter 49, verse 8 through 11, I believe. Some of those verses. So if we read those verses, if we read the verse that I'm referring to.
It's in the chat.
Okay, thanks. Let me read it. 49, fine. 49:9. If two groups of believers fought with each other, you shall reconcile them. If one group aggresses against the other, you shall fight the aggressing group until they submit to God's command. Once they submit, you shall reconcile the two groups equitably. You shall maintain justice. God loves those who are just. So the way I understand it, in this context, if there's one group aggressing towards another group, persecuting them, aggressing them, being hostile, unnecessarily hostile towards them, using coercion and different methods that are unjust, the third party observant submitter group must intervene. They have a duty, and in this verse it's a commandment that they must fight the oppressing group, the aggressing group. So that's definitely justified, and they need to intervene and deal with that. This is for the sake of justice. Otherwise, it is an injustice. It is an apathy. That's one instance I can think of fighting. Another instance I can think of fighting is it's not just an exchange of ideas, and we have this a lot here. Someone comes, they're opposed to our religion fundamentally. They're not here to hear ideas. And I do see it as a fight. It's a battle of ideas on the battlefield. And when I have 20 or 30 people listening, it is a fight because who I'm engaged with, in the intellectual, is not the other person. I'm not sharing ideas with them. I'm not engaging in a discussion with them, but I am fighting against what they're proposing. So they're here, they're very hostile, they're attacking, and they're fundamentally opposed. And the way I fight is I address those points, and for the sake of the people listening, and they benefit from it, right? So that's different than someone comes here, they're new, and they want to learn about the message. There's not really any fight or anything there. Or even when we're talking amongst submitters and we have a disagreement or something, I don't consider that fighting either. But when someone comes with the explicit intention of opposing our religion and is hostile, no problem. But that is a fight. And God willing, we will address everything they have to say. And we've seen this many, many times, and people do benefit. Praise God. So that's what I wanted to share in my view of two instances when it comes to modern day, quote unquote fighting. Thanks.
Yeah, mashallah, I really love what the sister said, and I want to double down on the I'm not convinced of any of these arguments with regards to using the fighting versus with regards to how you approach people. Striving, fighting, the problem is in the word the fighting. For example, when you have a fight with your wife, are you really having a fight with your wife or your spouse? No, there's knives aren't coming out. You're not. No, nobody's going to get kicked out of the house and home. Well, it does happen, but I'm just saying that your life isn't at risk. God is always talking about when oppression, when something serious is going to happen, you shall fight them to ward off oppression. Like you can't even practice your religion. Let's see, you shall fight them and you may kill them. So look, if you're going to be talking to somebody in the Discord, look, if they're against you, you may kill them if you take these verses. You shall fight in the cause of God, but you have to do it with regards to the right spirit. It's not fighting. See, that's why I'm saying it. This is so difficult. This is just a word problem, how we think of fighting. And you can't cross that line. And there is a serious line there. You can't be the aggressor and you can't advocate bad behavior. All bad behavior is condemned. So we can't even talk about this long enough,
I think
actually, to do it justice.
I would just say quickly, Jeff, just to refute your position real quick. Rashad uses fighting in the non-physical form. So that settles whether or not fighting has to be physical or not. He uses it in non-physical form. So, he talks about your family members are fighting you for your religion. He's not talking about them physically restraining you or physically aggressing on you. He's saying that they're in their behavior, in their words, in their treatment of you, they're fighting you. They're treating you with hostility. That's what that refers to. So this is a principle in the Quran. I think you're fixated on the literal term, and you're fixated on, this is physical fighting, but you're missing the spirit of the element. It's talking about a concept. It's talking about a concept of how to deal with things, right? When it says aggression is permitted against the aggressor, okay, this is all types of aggression, not just physical aggression. If you want to say it's only referring to physical aggression, then that means I can aggress in other ways against non-physical aggression. That's not right. Right? So it's talking about, this is a concept. It's not, we can't just be fixated on the one aspect of the physical aspect. It's a double-edged sword the way you're going about it, in my opinion.
Right, and I see, I know this argument, and I see the results of it, and I see how much division it's caused, and I see how people, what the whole point is that it's about the response, it's the behavior. See, if it's not physical, if somebody isn't at harm, then you have no reason not to be acting in the best possible manner, doing it in the best possible way. So, for example, if somebody calls you a hypocrite unjustified, do you come at them and you say something? No, you disregard it. There's other ways to respond. This is the whole point. It's not where you take arms and you go at them, like take all my battery of comebacks and I start throwing them at them because it's a verbal war now. I'm saying I agree with you that it's the context matters, and I'm saying that it's being abused to the negative, and I'll stop there. I've said way too much.
I want to comment on this. God willing. So I think the whole thing is Jeff is trying to remind us and the verse which says debate with them in the best possible manner. But I wouldn't say that these fighting is not really decreed for us. I mean, I can't say that. Now, there's no physical fighting, of course, but if you just look at these verses, so if you have two groups of believers fighting with each other, you shall reconcile them. We can't say, well, there's no physical fighting anymore. We'll not reconcile them. We just let them attack. You just let them, do whatever. We can't say that. So we still have to do these things, or like, yeah. But I think the underlying idea of what Jeff is objecting to, which is the hostility, at that point I agree with. But the Quran deals with that as well. It says debate with them in the best possible manner.
I wanted to add, I think it's important because as we know that words can have different meanings depending on the context. So Dr. Khalifa may have used fighting and it may have had one meaning in one context, but for, in a verse, fighting may have a different meaning based on that context. So I think we need to be very careful that we look at the context of the word because this is something we've seen over and over. The same word may be used, but have different meanings in different contexts. So, for instance, in 477, there is, the previous verses to me suggest that, let's see, like there's the verse at 466, God's tests are never unreasonable. Had we decreed for them, you must offer your lives or give up your homes. They would have not have done it. And then later it talks about, these people that are being oppressed. And then 477, why did you force this fighting on us? To me, this seems like it's like physical fighting. I don't have access to corpus right at the moment. I'm on my phone. So I don't have easy access to corpus, I should say, I guess, to see what the Arabic says and if that clarifies. But, and I agree that, it's like in responding, like there's the verses that talk about, like it was mentioned, debating, responding with a good response, debating in the best possible manner. And even in the Hypocrites in Surah 7, it talks about, I'll see if I can find the verse there. I think it's Surah 7, around 200, that it talks about how to approach it. So I think we need to be very careful so that we don't wrong our souls. And we know that God advocates. It's actually Surah 7. Okay, it's 7:199. It goes back to the previous verses. When you invite them to the guidance they do not hear, and you see them looking at you but they do not see, you shall resort to pardon, advocate tolerance, and disregard the ignorance. And so inshallah, I will. And we know that God advocates unity.
MashaAllah. Sister, I wanted to make a suggestion. If you do have iPhone, I would highly, highly recommend for you and everyone else, rather than using Quran Corpus, use Quran Study app. That's our app, and it's superior to Quran Corpus in every way. And it's supporting submitters, and it's very effective, and it ties into Arabic and gives all the roots, and then also ties it back to Rashad's translation. So I really recommend all submitters to use Quran Study app, either on the iOS or on the website QuranStudyApp.com, to check roots and different things. In regards to the root of the qatal or qatalan, that's the word used for aggression, or I'm sorry, that's the word used for killing and fighting and this kind of thing. And what's interesting is if you look at the root, for example, you mentioned 477. Let's see. There's a word 16 there. So this word in the Quran, it can mean kill, it can mean fight. And so, but the context of this word, if you look in the root, it includes to wage war, to combat, battle, murder, fight, death, etc. But again, maybe in a particular context with particular people, it's one thing because it's narrating a historical event. But when we're talking about aggression, and we say in the Quran it says, "Do not aggress, unless you can may aggress only against the aggressors." If we want to understand that as only the physical aggression, then we're going to have a problem, right? It's all forms of aggression. At least that's the way I understand it. Similarly, again, as Brother Erdem said, if we're going to understand fighting in the reconciliation verse as only physical fighting, that means we don't really have an obligation to intervene based on the Quran when you see two groups of believers fighting. And that is for the sake of unity. And I witnessed a group of submitters oppressing another group of submitters for many years. But because the third party submitters that witnessed it, they said, well, we don't want to get involved. We're not interested. We're not going to do anything. They literally let this oppression, aggression, persecution, and mistreatment continue for years and years needlessly. That's not right, right? Just because you know what I mean? Just because it wasn't physical fighting, then to say, okay, well, this verse doesn't apply. We don't need to intervene and stop them. But that's wrong. Okay, so for the sake of unity, we must stop mistreatment of people. We must stop a group of two groups of believers fighting. We must fight the aggressing group. We have to. If we don't, then it's an injustice going on. This is for the sake of unity. This is upholding God's laws. So it's really important to observe these. And when you're talking about what Rashad used, he specifically used it, fighting you for the sake of religion in a non-physical form. We can listen to that also. So I think we should be careful, and we shouldn't limit the words in a very limited capacity that is really not the spirit of what the verses are saying. Thanks.
Mashallah. I do believe I need to respond. That the point isn't to limit the words, it's to understand the context. And I'm saying limit, the only limiting, look, hey, if you guys want to do all that fighting like that, go out there, be my guest. But what I believe is you're sinning against yourself. You're causing problems where there aren't problems. And my verse to speak about that is 33:48. Do not obey. Do not obey the disbelievers and the hypocrites. Okay, so we're talking within the context of religious context. They're disbelievers, they're hypocrites. Disregard their insults. I mean, what else can you say? Disregard their insults. I mean, their behavior is really bad. What are they doing? Well, they're insulting me. Well, now you know they're aggressing against you. Well, wait, God says disregard the insults. No, but I'm supposed to fight. Well, God says disregard the insults. The point of that's the whole point right there, is that we have tools to disregard verbal aggression. I am for opposing any type of aggressive attitude, but it's how you do it. Because see, you're physically not in harm's way. You don't have to break God's laws in order to achieve the results.
I also agree we don't need to break God's laws, and I don't believe we should even resort to insulting. Rashad explains that the battlefield now is mental. We don't use swords and weapons in that way, but we do have the battlefield of ideas. And when there is hostility, we do address them. We address the ideas, and we give better ideas, and we refute them. And God says the truth shall prevail and the falsehood shall vanish. But I think you're conflating behavior with content shared. No one's advocating for bad behavior, right? But we still need to understand the differences between different types of people, right? When we're among the submitters, Rashad says we're pussycats. We're kind and gentle and good when we're amongst ourselves. When we have prospective submitters, someone that comes and genuinely is interested in learning, we should treat them very well, right? But when someone is genuinely hostile, right? Maybe we're not going to insult them, or we're not going to result to bad behavior, but at the same time, we're just going to focus on the points and address them. rather than exceeding the limits or transgressing. And again, it's for the sake of knowledge, it's for the sake of the battle of ideas, it's for the sake of learning and many other functions, but not for that person. The minute we start to think about guiding that person, think that we can even do that when they're openly hostile against us and our religion, then we've missed the point. Because you're right, God is doing everything.
No, we need to be careful not to be swayed by one extreme to another extreme. Like if we see one extreme, we need to be careful not to be swayed to the other extreme as a form of repellent. We need to be balanced. We can't. If someone debates not in the best possible manner as bad behavior, that person is only taking a few of the verses and disregarding other verses. So it only believes in the Quran partially.
And I'm just curious. Yeah, I'm just curious if you don't like my idea, how do you deal if you don't believe that aggression occurs there? Aggression has to be physical for you to intervene. So then, what do you do when a group? I guess maybe your answer would be nothing then, right? Because what do you do when
No.
one or two or some believers are severely mentally brutalized by another group of so-called believers? How do you deal with that? What do you do with those believers?
Yeah.
The people that are causing those pains to suffering. We've seen many instances where we have believers be in communities and they get persecuted, they get mistreated, or they get kicked out, or they get dealt with in a very bad way. That's unrighteous. It's inappropriate. So, as a third party submitter, how do you deal with that situation? What do you see as appropriate action to be taken?
Yeah, that the appropriate action. Literally, I believe this happens here amongst us, and the idea that my conclusion is you do nothing. Well, we see that that's not what my conclusion is. I stand up and I say something. You try to say something, but the point, and also sometimes I feel like when I say something, I've gone too far. Maybe I've raised my voice, or maybe I was a little bit too personal, and I feel bad how I stood up, because I believe people are getting hurt amongst us unintentionally or because of this. You see, it's the escalation that's the problem. I advocate standing up, and how do we respond? With reminders. We remind people with God's word. And the thing is, what I'm saying, when it says disregard their insults, I can disregard a lot. I mean, if you think about it, you pagan, you whatever they want to throw me, it's just all insults. Or you are disbelieved, you're going to hell. I'm almost finished. I can disregard all of that, because that's what I'm saying is that why are we undervaluing the command to disregard insults? That's what I feel like is happening.
So I don't think maybe I didn't ask clear enough. So for example, let's say Brother Erdem goes to a different country and attempts to do Friday prayer. Then maybe they let him in, and then they severely mistreat him. They call him names, they attack him, this and that, and then maybe the next week he wants to come. They don't even let him go into the Jummah. I've seen similar things like this occur in real life. And what I see in response for the submitters is nothing. They don't do anything. And I don't think that's appropriate. And I think that perpetuates the problem. So that's what I'm asking about. You see, I see groups of submitters severely mistreating others, and I see other submitters doing nothing. It's not just in one or two isolated instances. I've seen this on many occasions. And unfortunately, if you think the submitters have behaved appropriately, what I've seen for the last 20 years is no, they just turn away. They just look the other way. They said, that's not my problem. I'm not interested in getting involved in that. Let them handle it on their own. And the injustice persists and it perpetuates.
Correct. May God reward you guys who have been through that. That's terrible. My feeling, what I say is that you speak up. You say this is wrong. You've fulfilled your commandment. You fulfilled the duty. You spoke up. And you can remind with a verse. You take a verse. This is why it's wrong. Through the verse, tell the verses. What else can you do? God is gonna resolve the issue. But
yeah,
you
I see
speak
it
up. You
differently.
remind.
No, yeah, I do it. I do it differently. That's why when I classify it as fighting, I take a whole different approach. And I think the approach is actually effective and beneficial. I've seen it in action, and I've actually seen it be successful. So maybe it's experience. Maybe you haven't been around enough submitters to see, okay, you tried your approach, you reminded and stuff, and then it didn't really do anything. And then maybe if you saw that, you would resort to additional actions that would yield results. I'm just telling you from my personal experience. In my experience, when it comes to fighting, the way I understand that is I would build coalition, I would spread awareness, I would not let them get away with it, I would make the issue very clear, I would expose it, I would advocate it, I would push that and say, no, this is not right, and make it as clear as possible. And this is what I mean by fighting. I would take every avenue to address it in every possible way and build a coalition and isolate the aggressing group and make them submit. It's not, and make it clear in any way possible they cannot continue that behavior. It will not be tolerated. Now, that's what I just said versus yours is going to the aggressing, terrorizing group and saying, you know what, this verse says don't do it, and then you walk away. Which one do you think is going to be more effective? I've seen my approach has been effective, and again, maybe it's just from practical experience, but that's what I think God's saying in the context of today when it comes to 49:8 or 49:9. We have to fight the aggressing group, and that's what it entails today. Now, you're conflating this with being rude, being disrespectful, using bad language, insults. No, it's not any of those things. But you need to be firm and persistent and have an elaborate plan to deal with such people that are causing pain, unnecessary pain, persecution, and suffering towards other believers. Just going to them once or 5 times, or whatever, and saying, hey, that's not good, knock it out. I'm saying that's not sufficient because that's just really sweeping under the rug, and the persecution will persist. This is something I've witnessed firsthand on many occasions.
Alright,
Very quickly
may
on.
I add?
Yeah, sure.
Alright, so أمر بالمعروف وانهى عن المنكر. God orders us to order people to do righteous and to forbid people from doing evil, basically. That's one thing. Or stop people from doing evil. There's in the story of a pharaoh, it was mentioned that there was one believer that had suppressed his faith. He asked them, are you gonna kill someone who will say that God is his God? So that is one indication that there are some submitters that have that they have faith, but they're silent. They're not really out there doing their thing. And with that being said, I know you already know that some people are introverted, some people extroverted. Many people have different roles to play here, but some people might be, let's say, weak or shy or not confident enough or not well equipped verbally or about the subject to defend themselves. So that's when Navid comes in play, and he has to basically bully the bully, right? Because some people are not equipped to have that conversation with these people, but as submitters, we need to be well equipped, ready for a situation like this where we interfere. Because one day we're gonna find someone that's weaker than us, no matter how weak we are, we're gonna find someone that's weaker than us that is being bullied and suffering by these people. So you need to have the vocabulary, the dictionary, the knowledge, the persistence, the confidence, the the bravery, the courage to face these people and try to stop them from doing evil. Of course, you cannot force anyone. You can force the horse to the river, but you can't force it to drink. However, uh, we must try to do something. And by try, it's not like, oh, just give it a little push and that's it. No, no, like actually try wholeheartedly. And of course, don't forget that God's doing everything. So you ask God for support and guidance. And I totally agree with Navid. But I also see that if people are weak and they don't have the confidence, so on and so forth, it's between them and God. God knows their innermost intentions. They may be excused. However, if they have the ability and the chance to do it, and they're just not doing it, and they're more afraid of the people than God, then That's between them and God.
There is no fear in debates, in conversation. What are they going to do? There's nothing that can happen. Nobody's going to. It's illegal.
Shaming.
And nothing happen. If nothing can happens to you except of the consequence of something you've done. So the thing is if a person is in over their head with a debate, they just be honest about it. You know what? Let me come back with somebody who knows more about this. I'm in over my head.
Yeah.
There's no shame in that. That's just being
Yeah.
honest. My point. I'm completely against this notion of escalating. See, the ends don't justify the means. We do our part. God does his part. And this notion that where someone's in trouble, they're in a debate and they're trouble, the guy feels like he's got a stronger argument. There's nobody at harm's way. Nothing can happen. That person just didn't have enough information. Maybe that person shouldn't be debating in the first place in that scenario. But the point is just honesty. And you know what? That goes a long way, because if you're debating against somebody and they say, you know what, that's a good point. I don't know how to respond to that. Do you know how much work, how much goodwill that provides? That shows this
Tell me
guy's
truth.
honest. He's just not arguing. He's not just arguing to argue. The whole point is if you don't want to see that people are conflating fighting with debate, then you're not going to see it. But I'm saying I see it happening, and I want to call it out. And to say that, well, Jeff is advocating complacency or inactive. This is not what I'm doing. Look, I'm in the Quran study, and I'm taking the opposing position. I'm taking the position that nobody wants to accept. This is not the behavior of somebody who's just complacent in something. I'm trying to stand up for what's right. That is the intention here, and that I think that's proper behavior.
I brought a couple of verses, inshallah, I can read them. I was watching Bismillah, man. 42:39, it says, when gross injustice befalls them, they stand up for their rights. Although the just requital for an injustice is an equivalent retribution, those who pardon and maintain righteousness are rewarded by God. He does not love the unjust. Certainly those who stand up for their rights when injustice befalls them are not committing any error. The wrong ones are those who treat the people unjustly and resort to aggression without provocation. These have incurred a painful retribution. As the brother Yusuf explained, in these situations, when there's oppression and persecution happening, a Quranic reminder is not sufficient. And if we do that, we're just perpetuating the pain and suffering of others and ultimately an injustice. So we need to be careful for what we're advocating for. Sister Faria, I think she wanted to speak. Go ahead, please.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. May God increase our knowledge and guide us to the correct understanding. And thank God for this study and being able to discuss and share and learn. I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. One is I wanted to clarify my prior point that I think there's different forms of aggression, different forms of oppression. What I was saying is that each verse and what it says, we need to look at the context to see like what it's saying. So fighting in each verse, we need to see like what does it mean in that verse? What is the context of that verse? Even if it, in a particular verse, the context is physical, that doesn't mean that aggression, oppression, other forms of it are okay. We know that there's different forms of aggression and oppression, and there's different responses that we can give to it. And in general, God advocates peace, like Surah 49, one of the verses that follows talks about keeping the peace within your family, within the believer family, and God advocates unity. And so I think we need to kind of really, and I think like one of the I think it was one of the brothers said, it's good to seek God's guidance, and I think they were talking about seeking God's support. Absolutely, I think also asking God for His guidance and help and support. We see these examples with the messengers over and over. Noah is persecuted; he implores God. That's the example that comes to my mind right now, that he says, God, grant me victory, I'm oppressed. And so first and foremost, we need to ask for God's help and guidance and wisdom on how to approach it, because we know that when there's persecution, we can immigrate. We can, if we need to kind of see what the best course of action is in that situation. And there was a verse that I also wanted to share. I can pull it back up. So, actually, the verse that the brother mentioned, I wanted to bring that verse. It's Surah 40, verse 28. MashaAllah, it was an interesting point. A believing man among Pharaoh's people who was concealing his belief said, "Can you kill a man just for saying, 'My Lord is God'? And he has shown you clear proofs from your Lord. If he's a liar, that is his problem. And if he's truthful, you benefit from his promises. Surely God does not guide any transgressor, liar." And then he goes on to say, essentially like supporting God's path, like who will help us against God's judgment should it come. So, and it kind of continues. So we see this example of someone here who that's what they thought was the best course of action in this situation. They're facing Pharaoh. 29, Pharaoh is there. It seems like, so he's like appealing to their logic and saying, how can you do this? And I think that we can, in our community, to me, like that seems, I'm not saying, like Brother Naveed read, we can stand up for our rights. God gives us the right to do that. And it's a matter of, though, in each case, I think the wise approach is to see what would be best in this approach, in this situation. What's the best approach? What's going to be effective? What's going to do the least harm, especially to our souls? And I think a lot of times we can kind of give reminders. It could be in a general sense. It could be in our studies, in our khutbahs, even privately to people or groups, where we don't provoke the egos and make things worse. So yeah, those are just some thoughts that I wanted to share. Thanks.
All right. So we were discussing the concept of fighting, oppression, persecution, both in the old times and these times. If we have any new, I wanted to get from people that are asking questions. Sister Medina asked a question. Sister Medina, do you want to come up and ask your question, or do you want me to just read it for you? Okay. I can just read it. I guess she cannot type or talk. Okay, so Sister Medina wrote, "Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I have a question that is related to the current topic discussed. Let's say there is a person in a submitter community that delivers his khutbahs in a bad manner, mocking other submitters, having aggressive tone of speech, and community is not united on how to treat that person. Some think he should be not allowed doing khutbahs. Others are being nice to him. So because of this disagreement, some submitters don't attend masjid when it's his turn to give khutbahs. Would that be unrighteous according to Quran?" I think this is pretty much similar, or exactly what I'm talking about. Is we need to address it. Giving one reminder and then leaving it may not be the appropriate approach. As Sister Fari explained it, like, look, different situations may necessitate different courses of action. In this one, I think in that situation, if it's objectively bad and objectively rude, disrespectful, and breaking the civil discourse, manner, and way and function of that masjid when it comes to delivering khutbahs, then it needs to be addressed. I'm sorry, but they need to be pressured to the point of stopping. You cannot have that because it's repelling. Right? Imagine a new person coming. This person's representing submission, and they're using insults, disrespect, being rude, loud, obnoxious, during their khutbahs. This is extremely damaging to submission. It can't be tolerated. Right? So it needs to be addressed using multiple techniques, maybe creating a committee, maybe doing an intervention, maybe separating that person, explaining it to them, pressuring them. You have to. Because if you don't and it persists, you could be causing a lot more damage than you could. One, you could be apathetic, and two, you could be contributing to repelling of people from submission. So we have to be very careful in these things. Go ahead.
I
Yeah,
just wanted to add something. Hello? Okay, so I just wanted to say that it seems like we're talking about two separate scenarios. So I get the sense from Jeff that the scenarios he's talking about are that there's a group or two people debating, and it presumably starts off as in a civil way, and then one person or both people escalate it into a verbal fight. So that's one situation. And then there's another situation where someone has already aggressed. There's submitters who maybe are oppressing another group of submitters, or the example that Sister Medina gave, that perhaps there's someone giving a khutbah in an aggressive manner, insulting other submitters during the khutbah. So there is a situation of aggression. So those are two different scenarios. So if someone is already aggressing, then of course passively sitting there like a pussycat saying, "Oh, please don't do that," and walking away, we all know that's not going to do anything when someone is aggressing. So the question here is, how do we respond to somebody who's aggressing? Right? That's a separate question from, I thought in the beginning of the conversation we were talking about just debating, and that debating is not fighting, which I think is a very separate conversation from if there's someone aggressing, how do we deal with this and de-escalate the aggression? So I think we should be clear what we're talking about, because I think the conversation evolved into something else. So I just wanted to add that.
Mashallah. I think, one thing that comes to my mind is guidelines and boundaries based on the Quran. And we see that like the submitter conference, they've done this, like they have guidelines for the conference. And they say that, these are our guidelines. Like if you come, you need to be, those are posted on the Master Tucson website. I don't want to misquote. Maybe I can pull it up and we can look at it. But the point is that there can be guidelines based on Quran. Like, okay, if you're going to give a khutbah, it needs to be in accordance with Quranic principles. So it needs to be peaceful. It needs to not be insulting anybody or aggressing. And if your khutbahs are not if you're not able to abide by these guidelines, you cannot give a khutbah until you agree that you're going to abide by the guidelines, and we see that you do that. So I think that there can be guidelines where that way you're not just, kind of people can't take it personally, because you can just set those guidelines and say, look, these are our guidelines for anyone who wants to give the khutbah. And if there's the example of someone giving a khutbah that's not abiding by that guideline, then they cannot give a khutbah until they agree and they reform. So, and the same thing for like the studies, there can be guidelines, like the comments need to be peaceful. They need to not be personal attacks. They need to, so one can kind of set guidelines. I think to me, that seems one solution. Thanks.
Yeah, we don't even need to refer to a yearly event. We deal with this every day on the server, and we do have rules and we do have guidelines, and I can read them for you right now. People can share their thoughts. So we have server rules. So those are more generic, as in no spamming, no personal attacks, no trolling, no profanity, no mocking or ridiculing, and we put relevant verses for the ones that have them. And then for guidelines, we have verses for every single one. So these are the server guidelines. Treat each other in the best possible manner, 1753. Respect people's boundaries with what they are comfortable discussing, 5811. Do not spread gossip or false information, 49:6. Give the people the benefit of the doubt and do not be suspicious, 49:12. Advocate tolerance, 7199. Do not be an aggressor, 2190. Reconcile and do not tolerate aggressive behavior, 499. Remind with the Quran, 2573. These are in the rules section for anyone who wants to see. I'm linking the rules page in the chat, in VC1-chat, and anyone can go to these rules. We're implementing these every day. We're here now in a Quran study that's 2 hours long, but we're on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on this server in the VCs, and we're implementing these guidelines. And if someone doesn't observe these guidelines, we give reminders, we talk to them, we isolate them, we approach them, and we make them understand that you have to operate within these confines. Otherwise, you will not be allowed to speak on this platform.
Mashallah. Thank God that can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank God. That's good to hear that we have those guidelines too. It was just one thing that came to my mind, and it's a precedent that's been set. So I wanted to just share that. Yeah, thanks for sharing as well. Like, for instance, I pulled it up. So this one, for instance, like in one part says, all presentations and discussions must be amicable. And then, like it was said, if people are not abiding, then people in charge can remind them. Thanks.
I wanted to make a comment regarding one of the verses we read. In 476, it says, those who believe are fighting for the cause of God, those who disbelieve are fighting for the cause of tyranny. What's interesting is the word here for tyranny in the Arabic is the same word that's used in 4 verse 60. It's the word taghut. And it says, have you noted those who claim that they believe in what was revealed to you and what was revealed before you, and uphold the unjust laws of their idols? What's interesting about this is, so the word for idols and the word for tyranny, it's the same word, taghut. But if you read this, either interpretation is correct. But the thing is, if we understand that what it is to fight for the cause of God, is what it is to fight for the cause of an idol, is that the idols are always going to be promoting tyranny. God is always going to be promoting justice and liberty and the non-oppression of individuals. It's really interesting that Rashad chose to use to translate this as tyranny in this instant, because that understanding wouldn't be as glaring if you use the term idols in this verse.
Before I forget, Brother Jeff, I think you wanted to make an announcement about the discussions on the server in a different context. Did you want to? I think you're waiting for this Quran study to make that announcement. Something about the new submitters and sharing the message. Do you want to speak to that effect, Jeff? Okay, I guess. Okay.
No, wait. I completely drawing a blank at the moment. If get it started, and God willing, I can come in.
Yeah, I think you were talking about just how we have a lot of new submitters joining the server, and not just new submitters, existing submitters, and having that space to recognize them, acknowledge them, having a sense of community and supporting each other to, foster the environment. I think you were going to speak about that. You told me a couple days ago. You said I'm going to wait for the Quran study to speak on that. I guess. Do you not remember?
Still drawing a blank, but everything you said, I support. Absolutely. We have new people come in, and the thing I would just say is that it's very important. I think Naveed's been doing this really well lately. He can always identify who's a new person here, and we kind of stop what we're doing. I think it's also maybe one should take them aside when the conversation, draw more questions out of them and let them lead it. And I think it's very important that we answer people's questions, and that specifically is what I'm referring to. Answer their question, not more, not these big long lectures. We need to engage people, keep engaged with them from the beginning, and this feels so respectful for people. And this is what is a submitter's behavior, is to respect people. This is some of what I'm talking about. Actually, is a matter of what what constitutes respecting a person, and that's a whole nother topic for another day. But when these people come in, we want them to be respected. I want to be respected. All of us do, but especially from the beginning, acknowledging them and listen to a little bit of their story and draw that out and have them be integrated. Mashallah. I'm sure I missed something, but
Yeah, well, and we missed some of what you were saying. You're robotic a little bit. I want us all to take this moment and welcome new people, new submitters, and other guests that have joined the study. Sister Lady Nay, a wonderful submitter from the United States community. Welcome to Submission Server in our Quran study. It's a pleasure to have you. Really happy to have you here today.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is, I think it's so funny when y'all say lady name, but I love it. This is Naima Rakib. I am from Washington, D.C. I came to submission in 2 ways. So I'm in 40s, mid 40s, or a little bit, whatever. Anyway, but in my 30s, I was born Muslim. And I didn't know this, but as my dad's growth in Islam, he came to submission. It wasn't until, and I was exposed to it as a child, I just didn't practice heavily. But then later in life, I kept being drawn back to Islam and wanting to get to reading the Quran and practice in a way. And so when I went to a masjid and was like, yep, I'm ready. And I didn't feel that comfortable. So I went back to my dad, like, hey, who were the people that we used to pray with when I was younger? And it was the submitters community. And so then I've been probably 5 or 6 years back in the submitters community, and I've been to a conference and it was like the most amazing thing ever. It was God and praying all day long. It was in Tucson that year. It's about 3 years ago. So yes, that is me.
I was there
Naima.
at that conference. Do you remember me? I was at that conference, 2019.
Yeah, 2019. I bet you if we talked on the side, you would, I don't know about is this Naveed? How do I say your name?
Yeah, my name is Naveed.
Yeah, probably because I was very vocal and very open in who I am and loving God. So I'm pretty sure we
And,
had many encounters.
and sister, I had a question. Do you know Joy and Kelly from the DC
No, are they
area?
in Washington, D.C.? No, I
Yes,
don't.
yes.
Aqeeb, as you remember, Aqeeb's the one who introduced me to this
A
forum.
queef. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know them, but I wouldn't mind knowing them because they should be connected to us.
Yeah, I think they were kind of. It sounds like they've been kind of, instead of being with the submitters, they didn't really know, and they've been kind of talking to the Quranists, so they didn't know the submitters. So God willing, we can all get united.
Yeah, so you can help
That's wonderful.
connect them and we can invite them out because we do Juma on Fridays, of course, and Quran studies on
Yeah,
Sundays. And
we love Aqeeb. He's amazing, and it's really
he
nice.
is amazing. He does our khutbah he's so amazing. And you all should join if he has invited you and sent you the information.
How,
His khutbahs are always lessons, you all. You always
and,
can, and he ties it to the Quran. It's
and how many
amazing.
people are you guys over there then?
So in Washington, D.C., the submitter community, I would say it may be 15 to 20 people in some way, maybe through Quran study, but as active, it may be like 12, like who might,
Wow.
continuously be in that community. And in the years past, we've been connected to the not Dulles, I don't know whatever that community is out there. I know when I first came on, we used to do a little bit more with them. But yeah, so, and
That's
through kids and
amazing.
stuff. Yeah,
That's
it is.
amazing. Yeah, if you can come on, like I said, we're here every day, 7 days a week. So, during the week when we're not just doing the Quran study and we're having open discussions, I would love to get to know you guys more and talk to you and exchange ideas and really connect on that level.
Yeah, I've been jumping on. I jumped on yesterday. You weren't there, but I did. So God willing, I'll keep doing it and being enriched with the education. And so earlier, I think his name is Jeff. I'm sorry, but you all were discussing ayat. What was it? 76 or 77? Was it 40, 77? Was that what?
477, maybe? Was it
477. I apologize.
477?
Right.
And
And you were
welcome
talking
back.
about the way. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. I've
Yeah,
been in and out.
sorry, I'll let you finish, but I just want to say welcome back to submission.
Okay. Oh, well, thank you. Yes, it has been every day striving to get closer and closer to God, to be a better human has just made my life just even greater. So yeah, I'm just grateful. Gratefulness is an action, right? So anyway, you all were talking about the ways. Oh, did somebody do that? You all were talking about the ways of how we can fight for the cause of God. And I think I agree with everyone, and even the brother who mentioned you don't just not passive is not the right word, but sometimes you may have to act and be a little physical, but also sometimes you can use the words like the sister brought up, the ayat about just the silent man, silent believer, just stepping up to Pharaoh. Sometimes a word is all that's necessary, even if action is expected. You can give that word and walk away because that's the best for you and your soul. So that's all I wanted to say. And thank you for calling on me.
God bless you. Yeah, I hope to get to know you more, and hopefully more people in your community. That will be a beautiful opportunity. We also have a couple other new people. Sunny Life Yo. I don't know. It looks like you're new here to the server today. Did you want to speak? And can you unmute yourself and introduce yourself to everybody? Sunny Life Yo with the bunny photo.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Yeah, this is my first time here at the Discord. I was invited by Naveed. Just so you all know about me, my experience, I was born into a Muslim family, and I always, I guess, when we come to the Quran, I always believed in the Quran, but of course, when you're around Sunnis, you end up having questions and their books and their hadiths, etc. But I actually, funny enough, when my parents were separated, my mom actually went to a masjid that was only about the Quran. I don't know if they exactly called themselves submitters, and if they took Rashad Khalifa as a messenger, but they themselves were only studying the Quran. I did leave Islam for a while, as when I got older because of just some experiences, religious trauma, and then relationships, etc. But I returned, and I returned more firm and just believing in the Quran. And so I'm just, as someone who was online years ago, way back in the early 2000s, seeing this sort of rise is very heartwarming. And also seeing people come together to study the Quran and trying to develop, I guess, community and congregation. That sounds like a wonderful idea. So I'm very interested to sit with you on the internet and study the Quran with you all. And then, inshallah, maybe I will meet some of you all in person later down the line. And I thank you, Naveed, for inviting me.
No, God bless you. God bless you. Thank you so much for coming. It's a pleasure to have you. Do you mind if I just give everyone kind of a very brief, just a quick background of you? If not, that's okay. Yeah. So I met the sister on Clubhouse, and I invited her over, and she's, mashallah, a very sincere soul in my judgment. She's very open, and she's learning about submission and worshiping God alone and studying the Quran alone as our source of law. And so she's really interested in learning. And I told her we have a group of people, because in this day and age, everyone, or a lot of people say they worship God alone and follow the Quran alone, but they end up just having different, not being able to really congregate, not really being able to associate with each other, and there's always just constant strife and whatnot. And so kind of what I was talking about with the sister is, here, even if we have our disagreements, our foundation is the same. We all have the same practices. We all have the same rights, rituals, fundamental beliefs. We're pretty much the same. It's just on certain issues, which are, no one, you're never going to have a group of people agree on that, 100% on every single topic. But on stuff that is the most important and matters the most, I think for the most part we are in pretty solid alignment. And I think that's very valuable, because here we are. We're all, praise God, all united. And if we meet each other in person, we could do our prayers together. If we're fasting during Ramadan, we could do Ramadan together. We can do Friday prayer together. And all these different things, we're on the same page when it comes to the commandments, when it comes to the prohibitions, for the most part, as far as I can tell. So, yeah, so it's amazing to have you. And yeah, and if you have any questions, there's submitters from all walks of life here, from all kinds of backgrounds, and I'm sure they'd love to share with you their stories and how they came to submission. And it's just a beautiful opportunity to be here. In let's say 10 or 15 years ago, or even less than that, like you would be isolated. You wouldn't have the opportunity to talk to people. Maybe you could email someone or some website or something, or go on some forum. But now we have live discussions regularly every day where you can discuss with like-minded individuals, and it's truly a blessing. I'm very honored and blessed to have this opportunity. So God bless you, sister, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. And I've enjoyed the discussion here today. So thank you all so much for inviting me.
God bless you. And we have another sister from Indonesia. She's also new and interested in following Quran alone. Sister Rusta, do you want to speak? All right, maybe she's not able to speak. Okay, well, yeah. So, anyone else want to share any thoughts or ask any questions or discuss anything that has been a pressing or issue or something that they're needing clarifications on or anything like that?
Salam, brother. I just wanted to add that the only ladies that I know personally on the study are Susan and Fari. Hi, guys. So I just thought it might be fun to have like the opportunity for female submitters to have our own little chat or own little occasional Quran study. Because as women, we obviously have certain topics that affect us and not so much the men, or we want to talk about it from a female perspective. Nothing against the guys. You guys are great. But I think it would be really fun to have a female Quran study. So if anyone's interested, then just chat me and maybe we can talk about it.
And I think we can do that in a way that would be private and separate, but on the server, so it would boost server activity and encourage more people to join the server, but it wouldn't be publicly visible. And it'll be limited to the females that we choose to be involved with that. So I guess we can potentially facilitate that if that's what's decided on.
What
But
was her name that said that? I didn't catch the name.
Oh, my name is Sana. Sana, Sana.
Sana. Her name is Sana, sister from Canada. I really highly encourage everyone to get to know each other, because God says the believers are members of one family, and God explains to us that they're the real family. So it's really important. We were talking about unity earlier. This is really important, to be united as much as possible. I think God says He loves when the believers are united. So this is something we should really emphasize and focus on and get to know each other. And that's why I want to make this reminder. I really highly, highly encourage everyone to join the daily discussions on the server in the voice channel 1. Even if you want to just listen in, it makes a big difference. If you want to just have it playing in the background like a radio station, that's great too. But really, I mean, we were talking about this with the believers yesterday or the day before. We said, look, you're going to listen to some talk show or listen to radio or music station. You could be listening to submitters talking about amongst themselves or spreading the message or introducing new people. Pretty much 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You could just have yourself muted, join VC1, it boosts activity, and it goes a long way in terms of boosting the server and what we're doing in terms of discussing God and spreading God's message and creating unity among the believers, as well as having awareness. Keep in mind, this is a public platform. This is not just a private Skype channel, meaning when you join, it's visible on the world stage. Even on our website, it shows people on the VC. So just be aware of the ramifications of being in VC1. It makes a huge difference. This is public server. Even when you search on Google, Discord, on our website, it shows. So it makes a big difference to have visibility of people, members on Voice Channel 1, because it is like a public radio station. So I highly recommend all people, even if you cannot contribute or participate, to just join in. Even if you can't listen, just deafen yourself. But the more people we have, the more buzz it creates, and it just snowballs. And so that's what I would suggest. I don't know if anyone else wanted to speak on that,
Yeah.
Brother War Thunder. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I wanted to say something quick, and then War Thunder, if you have anything. I wanted to, I can vouch for this. I also recommend the same thing, because even daily, like Quran discussions, they're very educative. I can definitely recommend that. Just coming in here, even if you're like doing something, you're like doing dishes or working out, just listen in the background. There's a lot of stuff you learn here. So yeah.
I just wanted to give a quick response and say salam sana and good to hear you here. MashaAllah, your comments, and praise God.
Yeah, so I mean, personally, I believe that, just this is like a virtual masjid, right? We come here, we preach God's message, and by just simply staying in the VC, contributing something, talking a little bit, you're boosting the activity of the server, and that will bring more people to the server itself. So simply by just sitting in the VC and participating, you're helping spread the message. Just that simple, right? A very easy good deeds that you can basically get from this, right? Personally, really recommend it. We're in the beginning of this movement, talking to the public, to Sunnis, Shias, Quranists, all kinds of people. And we would greatly appreciate and would benefit from this if more submitters would come and help us in this way.
And you know what? I think it was Brother Taslim. I might have mixed it with Jeff. Maybe Jeff did want to say something, but Brother Taslim, as you're here, I think Brother Taslim, you wanted to make an announcement. I apologize to Jeff, and I wish you had said something. Taslim.
Well, I was blank. I was feeling like, what the heck is going on with my mind?
No, it's Taslim, but I don't know why Taslim was just sitting there muted. He's the one that told me to remind him, and I guess maybe he's busy or something. Taslim, are you here? Or can you speak? If he's not, I just want to give a reminder to everyone. When you're on Discord, there's an option. It's called deafen. So if you step away from the computer or phone or whatever, please deafen yourself so that we know you're away and we don't call on you. Okay? That's a feature I think everyone should learn and utilize because it's really beneficial, because then we're just not going to call on you. You're not going to hear, and we're going to see that you're away. So please use the deafen option if you want to be away. But it was Brother Taslim that wanted to say something. I guess he's not here. When you come back, Brother Taslim, you can speak. I wanted to give a shout out.
Is the deafen? I just wanted to ask a question about what the deafen looks like. It's a phone in red. It's like an X.
No. So when you're on that screen, can you? How about this? I can share my screen and I can just show you. How about that?
Okay, thank you.
Hey,
I'm
Navi,
sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
it depends on if you're on a mobile or desktop. So mobile doesn't
Yeah,
have the option.
no, it does. Mobile does have the option to deafen.
You just have to pull up.
Yeah,
I
just have to
see
pull
it. I
up.
just found it. I pulled that little
Okay.
thing up, and I
Yeah, when you
just
pull it
found
up,
it.
there you go. Yeah, so when you deafen yourself. So if you want to go away, you want to do salat, you want to just, I don't know, whatever, do whatever, and just you're stepping away, you can just deafen yourself. So a lot of people, Brother Taslim, Mike, I know does this a lot. Mike said, look, I have to go help a client. He'll deafen himself for a half hour or an hour, be away helping his clients and customers or whatever, and then he'll come back and during that time we know he's away. We know not to call on him, but he's still in the channel and it still boosts activity.
What does the
So
red one do? Just mute you out of the particular chat?
the red one ends the connection. So you leave the call altogether.
Okay,
You
so you
leave
don't want us to do that. You want us to deafen it. Okay, thank you.
yeah, if you can deafen, that'd be great. Because
Okay.
really having the voice activity with people deafened on here is better than not being on here, because when you're deafened on here, it shows people on the channel and it boosts activity, because you see, let's say there's 5 people speaking, 5 people deafened, that's 10 people. That makes a big difference versus those 5 people not deafened and just not on here. And I highly also recommend for anyone who has it only on their phone to download it also on their desktop or laptop and use it simultaneously, because you can be connected on the voice with your phone, and then you can open the screen on your desktop at the same time, and access the messages and everything that way. It makes a big difference. It's really helpful. Brother Taslim, are you back? If not, let's see. Erdem spoke. Mike, did you want to say something? Okay.
Salam, no, I was just making some comments in the chat there about just interesting things about how, but people probably saw it already. It's just because there was a question about, God perfected light in spite of disbelievers, and people were acknowledging, oh, this is the context of the Quran, which we all know. And I was just sharing that how human beings, we literally see what is reflected, right? So if you see an apple is red, all the light is reflecting except red, so we see it as red. So when you're reading the Quran, you're literally reading the light from God. It's going in your eyes. So that was just kind of the point I was making. And when we're told to follow the light that came with Muhammad, obviously it's referring to the Quran. So you get further confirmation of what we do.
I wanted to address Sister Medina, if she can hear.
No, she's
Regarding.
gone. Sister Medina's
Oh,
gone.
okay. Oh, okay. All right. That's it. That's fine.
Sorry, but we do
But
have another person. Oh, go ahead.
I was
Go
just
ahead,
gonna
please.
say, like, if it might be helpful because these are issues that come up in communities. It might be helpful to still hear the
Oh,
response.
okay. So the the individual in her community, uh, whichever one it would be, it ends up being very aggressive with people in the community, and in the khutbah offends people in this manner. This is what she was addressing. How do you deal with this person? So what I am bringing up with regards to conflating fighting with debate or kind enlightenment, this is the problem. And see, that's what this is exactly why I'm bringing it up, because I think I know this individual. I think these types of individuals are everywhere, and I think what they are doing is they are conflating the fighting versus with debate in the best possible manner, and they're trying to force their agenda. They see enemies in their community. They're using fighting behavior in their community, and they're causing a lot of trouble, as she said, to where people are being repelled from coming to the khutbah. Now, I would say to those people who are repelled, it's like that, that's they should be going in all conditions, no matter what, and the community should be standing up against this type of behavior that this person giving the khutbah is. But the subtle point I'm trying to say is this actually is why I'm bringing this up, is because I'm addressing that behavior. That is the result of conflating the fighting with the kind enlightenment and debate. Thank you.
All right, who's next? Does anyone have any questions we can address?
I think Brother Mosen is back. Peace be upon you, Brother Mosen. If you want to ask anything, you can go ahead.
Assalamualaikum to everyone. I'll just wake up. I've just joined in. I'm just trying to catch up here.
All right, no problem. Yeah, welcome back to the server. Okay,
I had a question regarding Hajj, but have people made Hajj on this forum? Because if they haven't, then it may not be the best use of our time.
I think
Some
Peace
have.
has
Yeah, I think
done.
some people here have. Yeah.
Okay, praise God. So the part that there's an echo somehow. Okay,
It
let me
was
try.
mine. Sorry, go ahead. I muted myself. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So a part of this is that so after the Umrah part, so one thing is walking between the knolls of Safa and Marwa 7 times. how do people understand this? Is this like Safa to Marwa, that's one, or Safa to Marwa and back is like one full trip is one in terms of seven? So that's the first question. Like, we know that we walk 7 times between the knolls of Safa and Marwa. Maybe I should bring the verse. It's Surah 2, I think 198 or around there. Maybe if I read the verse, it'll be more clear. Let's see. Pull it up. 190.
Sister, it's put in the chat, 2158.
Okay, sorry. I was not remembering right. Okay, thank you, brother. So 158, the knolls of Safa and Marwa are among the rites decreed by God. Anyone who observes, okay, actually, you know what? This one doesn't say 7, but it's in the, I think it's in the appendix 15, that in the Hajj part. Let me see if I can pull that up and read it because it might be easier too. Okay, so appendix 15, under pilgrimage, Hajj, and Umrah. It says the end of the second paragraph. It says the next step is to walk the half-mile distance between the knolls of Safa and Marwa 7 times with occasional trotting. So this 7 times, that my understanding of that is that like Safa to Marwa is 1. So then the it's going to be a total of 3.5 miles versus doing Safa Marwa Safa, that being 1, and then that would be 14 miles total. Is that how other people understand it as well?
Peace be upon you, sister. I've spoken with you in the past. I just don't remember 100%. Unfortunately, it's been a while, but I will tell you this much: the first suggestion you made, I think that's the correct one. But the good news is, when you go there, people in large and the organizers will tell you what that would be, and historically, it's correct. Like when we do the circumambulation, counterclockwise 7 times, they will tell you all that. So it's been established there for generations, and they will tell you when you see a person there, like an information center, they'll tell you exactly how many times. And since it's been established, then it's pretty much, I think, in line with the first example that you used. That's what I think. I just don't remember 100%, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would tell you. But that. I would say you wouldn't have, inshallah, a problem when you get there. People will tell you.
Praise God. Thank you, brother. So you're thinking also it's the 7 miles total, if I understood correctly. But yeah.
No. What I meant by
it would be
3.5 miles. So
it'll be
sorry,
3.5
brother.
because
Yeah, if you go from Safa to Marwa, that's 1. From Marwa to Safa, that's 2. Back and forth. So you know what I mean? It's not like
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
sorry,
3.5
I misspoke.
miles.
3.5 miles.
Yeah. I'm 90% sure that's the situation. But when you go there, as I mentioned, the organizers will tell you, and it's established thing, like the
I think
circumambulation around 7 times and all that stuff. So you should be fine, God, and
I
God
think
will
if
make it good for you.
I
Sorry,
think
go
if it
ahead.
was 7 or 14 miles, most people wouldn't be able to do that. I think
Yeah, from a practical. Yeah, no, you're
too
right.
much.
But keep in mind, family, it's now marbled floor. It's not like during Prophet Abraham's time. It's marble floor with fan, air conditioning. Praise be to God. It's actually a beautiful journey. But
Right,
so
but
in
I just
terms of
think I don't know if I wouldn't be able to do 14 miles on marble floor either.
God bless you.
Thank
Okay,
you. Yeah, sorry,
I'll
I misspoke about that. And then the other quick question about this part is, both the circumambulation around both the tawaf around the Kaaba and the knolls, that's all without shoes, right? Am I understanding that correctly. And by the way, we don't really have an organizer. It's a few of us going, and then there's people. There's a company that's going to be transporting us from place to place. So, but God is
Well,
but God is the best provider, and I mean God is the best
absolutely.
provider and supporter. So,
Michelle,
inshallah.
what was the question again, sister? Can you repeat that question? What was it again?
She has to choose. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just the both around the Kaaba, doing the tawaf around the Kaaba, and the knolls, walking between the knolls. All of that is without shoes, right?
Yes, that's correct. You don't wear shoes. That's correct. You can wear a nice clean sock for the ladies, and they dress modestly. But men could wear sock as well. I've seen them, but I was barefooted. So yes, no shoes or no sandals. I should say you don't wear shoes. There's sandals. Yeah.
Brother Taslim, now that I got you back, I called you because I mistook you for Jeff. You said you wanted to make an announcement on Sunday at the Quran study, so I called you. I guess you're here now. I mistakenly thought it
Yeah.
was Jeff. You wanted to say something to all of us, so go ahead, please. You have your chance now.
God bless you. I don't remember what you said. Can you believe that?
Oh no! Come on, man. You
That's what
remember you
happens when
said
you
I'm
turn to
gonna
my
wait.
age, brother.
No,
That's
now
what
it's
happens.
you. I was pushing Jeff on it, but now I'm sure it was you. You said I'm gonna wait till Sunday. We got everyone here. I'm gonna explain. I think some
Oh,
aspect of the server, something you
well,
wanted to explain
this
about that.
is what I like to say. First of all family of submitters and everyone who's joined us, welcome to the Quran study, this server. It's truly God's gift. We're here. I encourage all of us to be here as you are on Sundays, and I encourage all of us to come on this server at any time that you have available. One, it's a good thing for our soul, believe it or not. And if the discussion gets too involved into any particular deep subject, well, you can deafen yourself. You can take a break if it's not into your realm of it's like me. I'm giving myself as an example. But for the general dear family, there's a lot of positive thing. Because God says in Adam's weight of good, you will get that reward. And rest assured, this is beyond an atom's weight of good on this server, to me, right? And I encourage all of us to participate more and more. This is a God's gift server that's gone globally. The cat is out of the bag. I honestly think as much as we can contribute. Now, if we don't want to talk, that's fine. You can sign in, deafen yourself, but be a part of this powerful cause, inshallah. And I hope you guys all do that as often as you can. Don't take anything for granted, dear family, because when you do, then when we're not in tune and appreciative, God can take it away, right? Because we have to show our worthiness, and we are worthy of it. And so that's why, inshallah, I recommend highly we contribute and dedicate as much as we can. God bless you all.
I just want to say something really interesting. In the old days, if you wanted to spread the message, you would go to, a library or a convention or something. You set up a table, you put up signs, whatever. A lot of preparation, a lot of stuff, and then like people walk by and say, "Hey, you want?" I remember I would do this at school and university. You want to talk about the Quran? Are you interested? Are you not interested? Of all the people that walk by, maybe 1 out of 100 is interested, and that's it. And it's very time consuming. It's very strenuous. It's very difficult. Now it's like everything's already set up. You don't need to go anywhere. You don't need to drive. You don't need to set anything up. You don't need to buy anything. It's like you just come in the server. We have people joining 24 hours. And these are people that are already interested in the message, not a question of whether they're interested or not. And then you're just here and you just answer questions and explain about Quran, God in the Quran. So God, like the brother just said, God has made it so easy for us to strive in this day and age in terms of spreading God's message. It's so easy. It's so convenient. I'll be honest, I've been on hikes and then I'll be on here, spreading God's message. I'll be driving to work or going somewhere or waiting at a restaurant or something, and I'll be preaching God's word. And so it's just fundamentally different than the past, and it's so effective and it's so efficient. We have the bot here, multiple languages, we have all the resources, we have everything you would need here. All the content is here, the translation, the verses, the appendices, the explanations, articles, countless articles, podcasts, You
Yeah.
name it. All the work is done.
Can I say
Really.
something
Go
else?
ahead.
Just came to my
Go
my
ahead.
thoughts, brother Naveed. At the beginning, I'm just giving you my own experience. I was not comfortable being, maybe old school submitter, and then also I was in a very comfortable zone per se. And then when the server came, I was not in my comfort zone, and I would want the Discord to change to meet my comfort zone. Then I realized that's what discord means, disagreement, and for people to learn and to understand. And God says, proclaim the message I've given you. Now, of course, the methodology may be not the best ideal, but that's okay. You gotta, for me, I look at the bigger picture. Bigger picture is far more beneficial than the hiccups I will have, my submitting family members will have in terms of communicating. But that's not the key, because sometimes I wouldn't want to, draw myself out of a little small hiccup and miss the bigger picture, the global picture, the international picture, and the amount I've learned by sharing and exchanging so much information with newcomers amongst my own family of submitters. And so, by God's grace, it took a little while for me to get adjusted, especially at my age group and the comfort zone I was in. But then I realized for me, it's truly a gift, as it is for us, because it's a submitters, I call it a radio station, a live radio station. You get to hear the words of God, commemoration of his name, and the topics are so diverse. And I find it to be extremely beneficial. And inshallah, you all find it to be the same. And inshallah, you can all sign up and we'll blast off together, because I think this is going to just grow exponentially, inshallah. This is what God's promise is. The land of submission will take over, and that's his promise. God bless you all.
I wanted to give an update also. In the last week, we've established ties with submitters in Nigeria. A few submitters from Nigeria are now here. We're having a great time conversing with them. Similarly, we've established ties with submitters in Malaysia, India, Bangladesh, and the Persian Gulf. So it's really been amazing to have this opportunity to meet all these people on a regular basis. For the people that have been to conferences, it's like, okay, you can meet people at a conference, maybe spend half hour, a couple hours with one or two people or five people for the conference once a year from different places of the world. Here, you can meet people, submitters from all over the world, any day, every day. You can spend an hour, you spend 5 hours, you can talk to anyone, Nigeria, Middle East, Turkey, Africa, everywhere. It's been truly amazing to meet so many submitters. I've never met this many submitters in my life, and just the whole world of submission is open. The whole spectrum of submission is open, and really see how this religion portrays itself and thrives on the world stage. It's been fundamentally just amazing to witness. So I highly encourage everyone to join in and participate.